The universe has always been a place of cold equations. For eons, the galactic hegemony lived by a simple code: mass times acceleration equals force. To the stars' language, nothing more than a data transfer, a way to signal coordinates, fuel levels, or surrender. Then, we found Earth. At first, the scholars of the High Council laughed. Humans were physically fragile. They had no natural armor, no telepathic link, and their lifespans were a mere blink in cosmic time. But as we observed them, we realized they possessed a weapon we didn't even have a name for. To an alien mind, a word is a label for a thing. To a human, a word is a catalyst for reality. They don't just use language to use it to defy it. They speak of things that do not exist, like honor, freedom, and tomorrow, and then, they march into certain death to make those solutions real. We realized then you can break a human's body with a railgun, but how do you kill a sentence that has taken root in their soul? There is a famous recording from the siege of Krell 4. A human battalion was trapped in a canyon, surrounded by 10,000 heavy infantry droids. Logically, the humans were dead. Their oxygen was low, their ammunition was spent. The droid commander sent a broad-spectrum transmission. Resistance is mathematically futile. State your terms for cessation of life. The human commander didn't send back a strategic surrender. He didn't even send a plea for mercy. He sent back a recording of a poem written 500 years before his kind had even left their atmosphere. He spoke of a charge of a light brigade. He spoke of going gently into that good night. The droids, programmed for pure logic, couldn't process it. They waited. They analyzed the cadence, the metaphor, the hidden meanings. While the machines spent 3 hours trying to calculate the mathematical value of a metaphor, the humans had already jury-rigged their engines into a thermal bomb. They didn't win because they had better guns. They won because they used words to create a pause in reality, a gap in logic that gave them just enough time to do the impossible. The most terrifying thing about human words is their ability to deceive not just others. We call it hope. When a human is starving, they can tell themselves a story about a feast, and for a moment, their stomach stops growling. They can whisper the word courage, and their heart rate stabilizes. This is a biological anomaly. They can literally overwrite their own nervous system with a vibration of their vocal cords. We saw this during the Great Expansion. We tried to integrate them, to show them the truth of the galaxy's cruelty. They told stories of heroes who saved the day. We told them heroes are a statistical impossibility. They responded by becoming, they have words like sacrifice. In our language, this translation is unnecessary loss of resources, but to a human, that word is a badge of glory. They would rather die for a beautiful lie than live for a cold truth. And that makes them unpredictable. You cannot negotiate with a species that values a concept more than its own heartbeat. So, the Council issued a standing order: if you encounter a human vessel, do not engage in dialogue, do not listen to their broadcasts, do not read their literature. Their words are a virus. They get into your mind and suddenly you start questioning laws of the universe. You start wondering if maybe, just maybe, one person can make a difference. You start believing in right and wrong instead of efficiency and waste. We have conquered worlds, harvested suns, and mapped the void. But we tremble at a single human standing on a pile of rubble, shouting a battle cry. Because we know that as long as one human can still speak, their cause is not dead. Steel rusts, stars burn out, civilizations crumble into dust. But a human word? A human word can echo for 1,000,000 years. And that is why we fear them. Because in a universe of silence, the loudest voice eventually becomes the master of everything. But it isn't just the words they speak that haunt us. It is the words they don't say. In the 3rd century of the expansion, the Grell, a hive mind species, attacked a human colony on the moon of Vesta. The Grell communicate through constant bioluminescent flashes. To them, communication is constant, loud, and unavoidable. They expected the humans to scream, to beg, to broadcast their terror. Instead, the humans went dark, total radio silence. For months the Grell occupied the surface, but the humans had vanished into the tunnels. There were no demands for parley, no cries for help. Just, the Grell commanders began to hallucinate. They wondered what the humans were discussing in the dark. Were they laughing at them? Were they whispering a plan that would end the Grell Empire? The Grell's logic began to fracture under the weight of that unspoken pressure. When the humans finally emerged, they didn't speak, they simply held up a sign. It said, "Your turn to hide." The Grell evacuated the system within 48 hours. They realized that a human who is silent is more dangerous who is shouting, because a silent human is a human who is thinking, and a thinking human is the galaxy's greatest predator. And then, there is the organized noise they call music. We once captured a human vessel near the Black Pillars. Among the wreckage, our technicians found a small containing what the humans call the Voyager Golden Record. It was a collection of sounds, bird songs, thunder, and songs. We made the mistake of playing it in the Great Archive. Our species communicates through pure data. We found the music inefficient, repetitive, and mathematically chaotic. But then, something happened to our workers. They stopped calculating. They started moving their bodies in sync with the vibrations. They began to feel emotions, vague, terrifying ghosts of feelings like nostalgia for a planet they had never seen, and grief for a species they were supposed to be studying. The music wasn't just sound, it was a carrier wave for human history. It was their words stripped of their definitions and turned into pure energy. We had to destroy the device of every worker involved. But even now, in the quietest parts of the archive, you can still hear the faint of a human violin. It is a haunting reminder that once you hear a human story, you can never truly be the same again. Why do we fear their words? Because their words survived the death of their speakers. When the soul system finally began to die, the humans didn't spend their last days building monuments of stone or gold. They spent them building the great library of the void. A massive, digital beacon broadcasting every book, every poem, every play, and every lullaby ever written in their hundreds of languages. They knew they might vanish, but they wanted to ensure that whoever came after them would have to deal with thought bomb in the middle of the galaxy. If you stumble upon that signal, you will find stories of the Odyssey, the Great Gatsby, and the Tale of Titties. You will read about Don Quixote tilting at windmills, and you will find yourself rooting for the madman. You will find yourself believing the impossible is worth doing. That is the ultimate victory of the human. They have turned the entire universe into their audience. Even as they sleep in the dust of history, their words are still out there, whispering in the ears of the next generation of explorers, telling them, "You are not alone. You are capable of more. You are magnificent." So, traveler, when you look at their stars, do not look for their cities, they are likely long gone. Instead, listen. Listen to the static, listen to the rhythm of your own heart when you see something beautiful. Because that is the human legacy. They didn't conquer the galaxy with fire, they conquered it with the one thing that never dies. They spoke and the universe listened,